He stared at the screen, frozen. The candles weren't just red, they were bleeding. Hours ago, he thought he was on the verge of greatness. Now, in a single flash crash, his entire trading account, years of savings, dreams, pride, evaporated into pixels. This isn't fiction for most traders. It's reality. And the silence that follows that kind of loss? It's deafening. The trader's name was Ethan, 29 years old, obsessed with charts, leverage, and glory. He believed skill alone could beat the market. But when the bull run ended, his conviction turned into stubbornness, and that stubbornness became ruin. I've seen it before. And if you've traded long enough, you have too. The market doesn't destroy people, I once said. It exposes them. I'm Jesse Livermore, and what you're about to hear isn't theory. It's survival. Because every great trader, before finding mastery, has walked through the wreckage of their own mistakes. And if you've fallen, if you face that moment where your screen shows zero and your heart sinks into darkness, this is how you rebuild. This is 14 rules to rebuild after a trading catastrophe. Rule number 1, stop the bleeding. Accept the reality, don't rewrite it. Most traders, after a big loss, try to make it back fast. They open new trades immediately, desperate, angry, wounded. They call it revenge trading. But in truth, it's just denial with a chart. Ethan did it too. After losing 80% of his portfolio, he doubled his leverage, chasing one last, big win. It wasn't courage. It was trauma pretending to be bravery. You can't rebuild from a lie. You must first accept the wreckage for what it is, a mirror showing you exactly where your psychology broke. In that acceptance lies power. Because until you face the truth without excuses, you'll never trade with clarity again. So the first step is this. Stop everything. Stop trading. Stop analyzing. Stop trying to fix what's already fallen apart. The market will still be there tomorrow. Your mental capital won't, unless you protect it. When you stop, you give your mind space to breathe. You give pain the chance to speak, and pain, when listened to, becomes your greatest teacher. That's when rebuilding begins. Rule number 2, audit the damage. Every catastrophe has a blueprint. Losses don't appear out of nowhere. They build quietly, through ignored warnings, overconfidence, and small emotional leaks. Ethan didn't blow up because of one bad trade. He blew up because for months, he traded like a gambler calling himself a strategist. He ignored his stop-loss. He increased his position size every time he lost. He told himself, "This time will be different." Sound familiar? Here's the truth. The market punishes self-deception faster than it rewards talent. So, take a cold, emotionless audit. Go through your trades. Write down what happened, the reason, the emotion, the impulse. Ask yourself, was it logic or was it ego? You'll discover that your catastrophe wasn't a random accident. It was the final scene of a long psychological pattern. And that's good news, because patterns can be changed. Before we continue, if this message hits you deeply, if you felt that same pain of losing and starting over, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel. Because what we explore here isn't about charts, it's about the mind behind them. And the more this message spreads, the more traders we can save from repeating the same destruction. Rule number 3, rebuild your identity, not just your account. When you've tied your self-worth to your trading balance, every loss feels like a personal failure. That's the trap Ethan fell into. And it's the same trap I once faced a century ago. When my fortune vanished, I thought I had vanished with it. But here's the secret no one tells you. The market doesn't just test your capital, it tests your character. And if you rebuild only your account but not your inner foundation, the collapse will return, in a different disguise. Ethan's turning point came not from studying charts, but from staring at a mirror. He asked himself, "Who am I when I'm not trading?" That question felt like a wound opening, but it was the beginning of real growth. To rebuild, you must detach your identity from your results. You are not your last trade. You are the discipline behind your next one. Start journaling your emotions. Document what you felt before each decision. That's where your true data lies, not in the candles, but in the chemistry of your own reactions. A trader who understands their emotions holds a sharper edge than any algorithm. Because once your self-image no longer depends on market outcomes, you become unshakable. You stop trading for validation and start trading for mastery. Rule number 4. Relearn patience through stillness. Most traders believe rebuilding means getting back in fast. That's how they destroy themselves twice. Patience isn't passive. It's power under control. After his collapse, Ethan didn't trade for 60 days. Every morning, he opened his charts, not to trade, but to observe. He studied without touching a single position. He learned to feel the rhythm of price again, without fear, without greed. That was his mental reset. In those silent weeks, something changed. His heart stopped racing when he saw red candles. He started noticing structure instead of chaos. And for the first time he realized, I don't need to chase. I can wait. That's when the market stopped being a battlefield and became a mirror again. When you sit in stillness, your perception sharpens. You begin to see that every big move, every setup, was always visible. You just weren't calm enough to notice. Patience rebuilds intuition. And intuition, trained through observation, becomes your edge. So, before your next comeback trade, earn your right to trade again by proving to yourself you can watch without reacting. If you can't sit still, you're not ready. If you can, you're already reborn. Remember, every successful trader, from the pit floors of 1907 to today's crypto screens, had one defining trait. They could wait. Rule number 5. Redefine risk as respect. Risk isn't your enemy. It's your greatest teacher, if you learn to respect it. Most traders only respect risk after they've been burned. Ethan certainly didn't. Before his collapse, he treated risk like a seatbelt he'd never need. Every loss was temporary. Every drawdown was just volatility. Until it wasn't. Here's the brutal truth. The market is always right, and you are always vulnerable. That's not defeatism. That's discipline. When I traded in my time, I used to remind myself, the moment I feel certain, I'm already in danger. Certainty breeds recklessness. Respect breeds survival. To rebuild, you must turn risk management into a ritual, not a rule. You don't use stop losses because you should. You use them because they're a daily act of humility, a reminder that your ego doesn't run the market. Ethan began writing down his risk rules every morning before trading resumed. He didn't just memorize them, he recited them. One line, every day. I trade to stay alive, not to prove I'm right. That single affirmation changed his trajectory. When you respect risk, you no longer fear it. You make peace with losing small, because you've seen what losing big does to your soul. And that, my friend, is the emotional pivot where growth begins. Rule number 6, rebuild your system, but start with simplicity. After catastrophe, most traders overcompensate with complexity. They start stacking indicators, optimizing strategies, downloading 10 new, holy grails. But what you need now isn't complexity, it's clarity. Ethan deleted everything. Every indicator, every fancy dashboard gone. He went back to simple price action, structure, support, resistance, trend. When you strip away noise, you rediscover intuition. And that intuition is what your subconscious builds from repetition and simplicity. Don't rebuild your system overnight. Rebuild it one behavior at a time. Risk management first. Then entry clarity. Then exit discipline. Make each rule unbreakable. Make each mistake teach you something new. The new system you build shouldn't just make you profitable, it should make you peaceful. Because true mastery in trading isn't emotional intensity, it's emotional neutrality. When I traded in silence after my own downfall, I realized that the less noise in my charts, the louder my intuition became. That's the paradox of progress. Simplicity births precision. If your chart looks like a Christmas tree, your mind probably does too. Start simple. Stay sharp. Rule number 7. Surround yourself with still minds. You can't rebuild in chaos. And most traders, after a blow-up, surround themselves with noise, online forums, Twitter signals, endless opinions. But after catastrophe, what you need most is stillness. Ethan learned this the hard way. In his rebuilding phase, he muted every trading group, unfollowed every hype account, and spent his mornings in silence. No charts, no YouTube, just reflection. That's when he noticed something powerful. He was no longer comparing his comeback speed to others. He was rebuilding his own pace. The market will tempt you with the illusion of urgency. If you don't act now, you'll miss it. But every great trader knows. Opportunities are infinite, but your focus is not. If your environment is filled with anxious traders, you'll absorb their anxiety. If you build your circle around patient minds, your patience grows with them. Surround yourself with traders who don't just celebrate wins, but dissect losses. Those are the ones who last. Because true trading wisdom isn't loud, it's quiet, disciplined, and almost invisible. You can't rebuild your mind in a room full of panic. You must find stillness, both within and around you. If you've made it this far, let me tell you something. You're already different. Most people quit after losing. You're still here, still listening, still fighting for clarity. That alone puts you in the top 10% of traders who'll ever make it. But let me ask you something. Do you want more videos that go beyond charts, that dive into the mind that controls the trade? If yes, hit the like button right now. It's not just for the algorithm. It tells me this message matters to you. And subscribe if you haven't already, because every week, we dig deeper into the mental framework that turns pain into precision. Your click helps this message reach more traders who are about to give up. And maybe, just maybe, it'll save someone else's account. Alright, let's move deeper. Because there's something most traders never talk about, the emotional scar that lingers long after the losses are gone. Rule number 8. Heal the emotional residue. Money can be recovered. But trust, in yourself, that's the hardest to rebuild. Ethan would freeze whenever he tried to place a new trade. He wasn't scared of losing again. He was scared of feeling that loss again. That's emotional residue, trauma embedded in decision-making. You start hesitating on good setups, doubting your analysis, sabotaging your own confidence. The only cure is exposure, small, controlled exposure. Ethan began by paper trading with no money, just observation. Then he took one small real trade, risking 0.5%. Win or lose, his goal wasn't profit. It was to prove to his nervous system, I'm safe. I'm in control. And that's how confidence is rebuilt, not by winning big, but by mastering fear in small doses. Healing isn't a straight line. You'll have good days, calm, analytical, confident. And you'll have days when the ghosts return, the flashbacks, the fear, the voice that whispers, what if I lose again? That voice will never disappear completely, but it can lose its power. I remember once after a massive drawdown, I couldn't touch the market for weeks. Every time I hovered my finger over the buy button, my pulse spiked. Not because I didn't trust the setup, but because I didn't trust myself. And that's when I realized, rebuilding isn't just about strategy. It's about forgiveness. Forgive the version of you that didn't know better. Forgive the arrogance, the impatience, the emotional blindness that cost you everything. You can't evolve while resenting the trader you once were. That trader, the one who failed, is the reason you're learning this now. They are not your enemy. They are your foundation. So when you look back at your catastrophe, don't see shame. See data. See progress. See a version of yourself that was necessary for the trader you're becoming. That shift in perception, from guilt to gratitude, is what ends the emotional loop. Rule number 9. Create your comeback ritual. Rebuilding after catastrophe isn't about motivation. Motivation fades. What keeps you consistent is ritual. Ethan didn't rely on hype or get back up slogans. He built structure. Every morning at 7 a.m., he'd journal his state of mind before opening his charts. He wrote 3 things. 1. What I feel right now. 2. What I expect from the market. 3. What I will not do today. That third one became his anchor. Before each trade, he'd take a deep breath and say out loud, trade the plan. Exit the emotion. It sounds simple, but repetition rewires belief. Over time, That ritual became his armor. It stopped him from overtrading. It reminded him that process beats prediction. If you want to rebuild, you need a daily system that centers your mind before the market tests it. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's breathwork, maybe it's writing. Whatever it is, it must remind you that discipline is a practice, not a mood. Because rebuilding is less about skill and more about consistency under pressure. That's the difference between a gambler and a professional. A gambler reacts. A professional rehearses. And each ritual you keep, each rule you follow, is another brick in the fortress of your comeback. Rule number 10. Master the art of emotional neutrality. There's a saying among traders. The moment you celebrate too much or despair too deeply, you've already lost balance. Neutrality. That's the invisible edge the market respects most. When Ethan began trading again, his goal wasn't to win. It was to remain emotionally flat. No high, no low. His journal entries shifted from, "I made money today," to, "I followed my plan today." That's when his equity curve started to stabilize. Not because his entries improved, but because his mind did. Emotional neutrality doesn't mean indifference. It means control. It's the ability to feel emotions without becoming them. There's power in a trader who can lose money and still sleep peacefully, knowing they executed perfectly. Because when your emotions stop dictating your trades, your results start reflecting your discipline. I learned this the hard way. After my own catastrophic loss, I realized I wasn't fighting the market. I was fighting myself. My need to be right was stronger than my need to be consistent. And that's the ego's favorite trap. The ego whispers, "You know where it's going." But the wise trader answers, "I'll wait for confirmation." That's emotional mastery, the quiet confidence of restraint. The market doesn't reward intensity. It rewards equilibrium. And once you master neutrality, volatility becomes opportunity, not chaos. Rule number 11. Reinvest in your education, not in your revenge. Most traders, after rebuilding a bit, fall into the same pattern. They try to get it all back fast. But the comeback mindset isn't about revenge. It's about reinvention. When Ethan rebuilt his account to 20% of his original capital, he didn't rush to scale. He invested in mentorship, trading psychology books, and data journaling tools. He understood that education multiplies what emotion destroys. When I lost my fortune, I spent more time studying my past than predicting my future. I didn't ask, "How do I make it back?" I asked, "What did I ignore that got me here?" Every hour you spend refining your mind saves you 100 hours fixing mistakes later. That's why you must treat learning as compounding interest. Quiet, consistent, unstoppable. And if you ever feel guilty for stepping back to study, remember this. The market will always be there. But your psychology, that's your finite capital. Protect it like gold. Reinvesting in your mental framework is the greatest trade you'll ever take. Because no strategy can save a mind that hasn't healed. Before we move toward the final phase, if this video has opened your eyes, if you felt that spark of self-recognition, pause for a moment. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. You're not just helping this channel grow, you're fueling a mission to bring emotional intelligence back to trading. Every share, every comment, every like, it tells the algorithm, this message matters. And it keeps us spreading Jesse Livermore's philosophy to the next generation of traders. Now, let's talk about the most critical phase of rebuilding. The one that decides whether your comeback lasts or fades. Rule number 12. Build long-term psychological wealth. Most traders focus only on financial recovery. But true rebuilding means creating psychological wealth, emotional stability that compounds over time. Ethan realized that no amount of profit mattered if his peace was fragile. So he started measuring success differently. He didn't ask, "How much did I make today?" He asked, "How well did I manage myself today?" Psychological wealth is built through self-respect, through the ability to walk away from the screen without anxiety, to enjoy silence without guilt, to lose gracefully without panic. When you reach that level, trading stops being survival, it becomes expression. It's no longer about escaping loss, it's about executing mastery. To build that wealth, create systems for emotional balance outside trading. Exercise, sleep, silence, reflection, human connection. Every trader I've ever known who lasted decades had balance outside the charts. They had hobbies, families, something that grounded them beyond price movement. Because if trading is your only identity, you'll always trade from fear. But when it's just one part of a fulfilled life, your mind becomes unshakable. I often said, a trader without patience is like a warrior without armor. But I'd add this now, a trader without peace is a soldier fighting ghosts. The market doesn't need more hustlers. It needs more balanced minds. Rule number 13, embrace the scar, not the shame. Your trading scars are not signs of failure, they're evidence of growth. Ethan used to hide his story, afraid of judgment. Now he shares it openly, because he understands that every scar is proof of survival. When you speak your truth, shame loses its grip. And suddenly, your failure transforms into wisdom for someone else. I remember walking through Wall Street after my downfall, broke, infamous, and invisible. But in that anonymity, I found freedom. No one expected me to be perfect anymore. And that gave me permission to be human again. You can't evolve while pretending you never fell. Your comeback begins the moment you stop hiding from your own past. Embrace the scar. Study it. Respect it. Because one day, another trader, desperate, broken, hopeless, will need to hear how you survived. And your story might become the lifeline that keeps them from giving up. That's the true legacy of every real trader. Not just profits, but perspective. Every great trader you admire has bled on their journey. The difference is, they use the blood to write their lessons. Rule number 14. Never forget why you started. When Ethan finally stabilized, trading small, consistent, emotionless, he did something symbolic. He opened his old trading journal from before the collapse. Inside, he found a single line he had written years ago. I want freedom, not fortune. He stared at that line for a long time, because somewhere along the way, he had forgotten. Most traders don't blow up because they're stupid. They blow up because they lose connection with why they began. What started as passion became addiction. What began as curiosity became competition. Rebuilding isn't just about learning how to win again. It's about remembering why winning matters to you in the first place. Your reason must be greater than money. It must be growth, discipline, independence, something unbreakable when numbers fall. If you trade only for profit, you'll quit when losses come. If you trade for mastery, you'll keep going no matter what. Ethan didn't rebuild to prove anything to anyone. He rebuilt because trading had become his mirror for life itself, a daily lesson in humility, patience, and precision. And when that mindset became his compass, profits followed naturally. The truth is, every trader dies once. When your first catastrophe hits, it kills your illusions, your ego, your invincibility, your belief that you can't fail. But that death is necessary, because it makes room for something purer to rise, wisdom. When I, Jesse Livermore, stood in the ruins of my fortune, I thought I'd lost everything. But years later I understood that collapse was my greatest teacher. It stripped me of arrogance and rebuilt me with awareness. If you've fallen, understand this. You haven't been destroyed. You've been redefined. The trader who fell is gone. The one who learns, reflects, and returns, that's the real professional. So, take a deep breath. Close your charts. Look at the wreckage not as a tombstone, but as a blueprint. Because this time, you're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. If this message resonated with you, if it reminded you that you can rise again, tap like and subscribe right now. It helps this message reach every trader out there standing in their own ashes, ready to rebuild. And remember, the comeback is never about the market. It's about the mind behind the screen. You've faced the fire. You've learned its lessons. Now go rebuild, not just your account, but yourself.